The air smelled of rain and regret the night I decided to tell my story. I'd kept it locked away for years, a jagged shard of memory I'd buried beneath the life I'd built. But at 32, standing on the balcony of my downtown apartment, the city lights flickering like a heartbeat below, I felt the weight of it pressing against my chest. My name is Abigail Carter Abby to the few who know me well, and this is the story of how I lost a family, found a purpose, and learned that some wounds don't heal. They just teach you how to live with the scars. I was 14 when the world I knew crumbled. Back then we were the Carters. Mom, Dad, and me, tucked into a modest two-story house on Elmwood Lane in a sleepy suburb of Raleigh. Dad was a welder, his hands rough as sandpaper from years of shaping steel, but his laugh could fill a room. Mom worked part-time at a local accounting firm, her desk a chaos of sticky notes and coffee stains. We weren't wealthy, our furniture was second-hand, and vacations meant camping by the lake, but we were content. That was enough. Until it wasn't. It was a Tuesday in October, the leaves just starting to turn, when Dad left for work and didn't come back. A crane malfunction at the site, they said. A cable snapped and a load of steel beams came down. He was gone before the ambulance even arrived. I remember the police officer at our door, his hat in his hands, and Mom collapsing onto the linoleum floor, her sobs echoing through the house. I stood there frozen, a half-eaten apple in my hand, watching my life split in two. The months that followed were a blur of silence and survival. Mom retreated into herself, staring out the kitchen window for hours, her coffee growing cold. I learned to cook spaghetti from a box, pay the electric bill with Dad's life insurance money, and pretend I didn't hear her crying at night. I was a kid, but I wasn't anymore, not really. 7 months after the accident, she called me to the kitchen table. Her hands trembled around her mug, a nervous habit I'd come to recognize. "Abby, sweetheart," she said, her voice thin as thread. "I've met someone. His name's Richard. He's good for me. For us." I should have seen it coming. The late-night whispers on the phone, the way she'd started curling her hair again, the errands that left her smiling faintly when she returned. But hearing it out loud, Richard, a stranger stepping into Dad's place, felt like a punch to the gut. "He's moving in," she went on, avoiding my eyes. "Him and his daughter, Sophie. She's 8. They need a home, and we can be a family again." "Mom," I said, my voice cracking. "Dad's only been gone 7 months. She flinched, but her jaw tightened, a look I'd never seen before. "Life doesn't stop, Abby. Richard's a good man. Sophie needs a mother. We're doing this." 3 weeks later they arrived. Richard was tall and broad-shouldered, with a salesman's grin and a handshake that lingered too long. Sophie was small, with dark curls and eyes like a startled deer, clutching a stuffed rabbit as she stared at our house like it was a palace. Mom fawned over her instantly. "Look at her, Abby," she'd say, watching Sophie scribble in a coloring book. "Isn't she darling? She needs so much love at this age." And she got it. All of it. Mom poured herself into Sophie, braiding her hair, reading her bedtime stories, baking cookies on weekends. I watched from the sidelines as my mother became someone else's perfect mom, while I faded into the background. It hit me hardest one night at dinner, a week after they'd settled in. Richard's mother, Evelyn, came over, a sharp-eyed woman with a voice like a whip and a habit of sizing people up like livestock. She peered at me across the table, her lips curling. "My, what a sturdy girl," she said, reaching over to pinch my cheek so hard I winced. "Such a strong face. Too bad about the posture." Then she turned to Richard, her tone syrupy. "This house could be lovely, with a few adjustments." She didn't finish, but her eyes lingered on me, cold and clear. I was the adjustment she meant. That night, I found faint purple marks on my cheek where her nails had dug in. I showed Mom, expecting outrage, but she just sighed. "She's old-fashioned, Abby. Don't make a fuss." That was the first time I realized I was on my own. Life reshaped itself around them. Mom, Richard, and Sophie became a tight-knit unit. Park picnics, MOE nights, Sophie's giggles filling the house. I was the outsider, sent off to Mom's friend Marcy's place more and more. "Marcy needs help with little Tommy today," Mom would say, not meeting my gaze. "You don't mind, do you?" So I'd go. Tommy was 5, a whirlwind of energy with a gap-toothed grin, and Marcy's house was a refuge. We'd build pillow forts, play pirates, or read comics until my voice went hoarse. Marcy would sit with us sometimes asking about school, listening like it mattered. It was the closest thing to normal I had left. At home though, Evelyn was a constant shadow. She'd sweep in unannounced, rearranging the levying room for better flow, criticizing Mom's faded curtains or barking orders like she owned the place. "These walls need a soft taupe," she'd declare, and Mom would scurry to the hardware store. Evelyn's favorite pastime though was me. She'd grab my face with her bony fingers, squeezing until my eyes watered. "Still chewing with your mouth open, I see," she'd snap. "No manners at all. Your mother failed you there." Or she'd catch me reading on the couch, slumping like that, disgraceful. My Sophie would never. Richard was subtler but no kinder. If I spilled a glass of water or chipped a plate, he'd explode. "Do you know how much that costs?" he'd bellow, veins bulging in his neck. Of course not, even never worked a day in your life. Just a leech eating my food, levying under my roof. I'd mutter apologies, scrubbing the mess, but he'd keep going. "You contribute nothing. Nothing but trouble." I'd glance at Mom, pleading silently for her to intervene, but she'd turn away, fussing over Sophie or wiping an already clean counter. The breaking point came when I turned 17. I'd had enough of Richard's freeloader rants. That morning I printed flyers on our ancient printer Abby's dog walking. Reliable, affordable, call me. And spent the day tacking them up around the neighborhood. By dusk I had 3 clients. Mrs. Hargrove, a widow with a yappy terrier named Max, was my first. "You sure you can handle this with school?" she asked, eyeing me skeptically. "I'm good with dogs," I said, forcing a smile. "And I'm responsible." She handed me the leash. $10 a walk. Don't let him eat anything weird. Word spread. Soon I was walking 5 dogs, babysitting the Carter twins down the street, and running errands for Mr. Phelps, an elderly vet who tipped me in quarters and war stories. Marcy even paid me to watch Tommy after school, though I'd have done it for free. Every cent went into a tin box under my bed. For months later, I had enough for a cheap smartphone, scratched-up model from a pawn shop, but mine. I set it up in my room, grinning like an idiot until Sophie burst in, her rabbit dangling from one hand. "What's that?" she demanded, pointing at the phone. "It's mine," I said. "I bought it with my money." Her face scrunched up. "I want it," she shrieked, bolting downstairs. I heard Richard's boots stomping up the stairs. "What's wrong, Angel?" he cooed at Sophie, who pointed at me like I'd stolen her crown. "Abby has a phone and I want it." Without a word, he strode over, snatched it from my hands and handed it to her. "There you go, princess," he said, ruffling her hair. I stood there, fists clenched, fury burning through me. "That's mine," I said, voice shaking. "I earned it." He didn't even look at me. "She wants it, she gets it." The next day I spilled everything to my history teacher, Ms. Delgado. She listened, her brow furrowing, then marched me to the principal's office. By afternoon Mom was summoned. I waited in the hall, hearing shouts through the door. When she emerged, her face was flushed, and she thrust the phone at me. "Here," she snapped. "Happy now?" That night she cornered me in my room. "How dare you humiliate me like that?" she hissed. "Going behind our backs to the school? You're a traitor." She didn't speak to me for weeks after that. Neither did Richard. They treated me like a ghost, passing food around me at dinner, talking over me like I wasn't there. 3 years passed in that suffocating silence. I threw myself into work and school, chasing grades and scholarships like lifelines. Senior year, I applied to every college I could, and when the acceptance letter from UNT Charlotte Ayurveda full ride, I nearly cried. I'd done it. I was getting out. At dinner that night, I took a deep breath. "Mom, Richard, I got into UNC Charlotte. Full scholarship." Richard's fork clattered. "You applied without telling me," he roared. "Who do you think you are, making plans under my roof?" "It's free," I said. "You won't pay a dime." He sneered. "Damn right I won't. Not for a sneaky little ingrate like you." I turned to Mom. "Please say something." Her eyes were ice. "Why should I? You've never respected Richard. You've tried to sabotage us from the start. Respect him." I exploded. He's a bully. The slap came fast, Mom's hand cracking across my face. Get out, she whispered, then screamed. Get out of my house. My cheek stung as I stumbled upstairs, shoving clothes, my phone, and Dula 87 into a backpack. Downstairs, Sophie laughed at some cartoon, oblivious, while Richard muttered about good riddance. I left, the door slamming behind me. I ended up on Lena's porch. Lena from chemistry, my only real friend. She took one look at my tear-streaked face and pulled me inside. Her mom, Carla, a no-nonsense nurse, sized me up over coffee. You need a job? She asked. My brother Tony runs a diner downtown. He's got a room above it, nothing fancy, but it's yours if you work. I nodded, too stunned to argue. The next day, I was bussing tables at Tony's place, a greasy spoon with chipped mugs and a jukebox that only played LVYS. The room upstairs was a closet with a cot and a hot plate, but it was mine. Tony was gruff but fair, teaching me the ropes, how to spot a stingy tipper, how to upsell pie. You're quick, he'd say. Got a head for this. I enrolled at UNC Charlotte, juggling classes and shifts. By junior year, Tony made me shift manager. I graduated with a business degree and a knack for running a tight ship. 2 years later, Tony got sick, lung cancer, too many cigarettes, and offered me a deal. I'm retiring, he rasped. Lena's got no interest in this place. You buy me out, it's yours. Half price. I'd saved every penny, and with a small loan I did it. Tony's place became Abby's kitchen. Lena and I revamped it, new paint, a modern menu, live music on Fridays. Took off. 5 years later, we opened a second location in Durham. 11 years after Mom kicked me out, I was 32, co-owner of 3 thriving restaurants, living in a loft with a view AW. I'd heard scraps about my family. Sophie's Instagram showed a glossy life of college and boyfriends, but we were strangers now. Then came the night that changed everything. Lena and I were in the office above Abby's kitchen, finalizing plans for a 4th location, when laughter drifted up from downstairs. Engagement parties here, Lena said, checking the schedule. 80 guests. Big night. We had a ritual, mingling with customers, shaking hands, getting feedback. I'll go, I said, slipping on my blazer and pinning on my name tag. Abigail Carter, owner. The dining room buzzed with chatter and clinking glasses. I scanned the crowd, smiling until my eyes locked on them. Mom, her hair streaked with silver, sat at the head table. Richard, paunchier but still smug, was beside her. Sophie, radiant in a sequin dress, clung to a guy in a tailored suit. My sister's engagement party. My stomach dropped. Mom saw me first, her lips parting in shock before twisting into a smirk. Well, look who's here, she called, loud enough to turn heads. Our waitress for the night. Richard chuckled. 32 and still slinging plates. Figures. I opened my mouth, but Mom cut in. I always knew you'd end up like this. Look at Sophie, degree in finance, marrying a lawyer. And you? Still wearing a name tag. Sophie giggled. Maybe she'll scrub our floors later, huh, Dad? Richard stood, swaying slightly, a glass in hand. Let's give her something to clean. He hurled a plate of bruschetta at the floor. It shattered and a shard nicked my cheek, blood welling up. Oops, he slurred. Better grab a broom, waitress. Rage surged through me, hot and blinding. I was ready to scream, to unleash every buried hurt, when Lena's voice sliced through. This ends now, she said, striding over with our leather-bound service agreement. Section 3.2. Any guest who harms staff or owners will be removed. No refunds. She nodded at me. Meet Abigail Carter, co-owner of Abby's Kitchen and 2 other locations. The room went still. Mom's jaw dropped. Richard blinked, unsteady. Sophie's fiancé shifted uncomfortably. Assault means we terminate service, Lena continued. Abby. Ascending, I said. Your call. I wiped the blood from my cheek, my voice steady. Clear the tables. Everyone out. Now. Staff moved fast, ushering guests out as Evelyn screeched. You can't do this. It's my granddaughter's party. She yanked a plate from a waiter, sauce splattering, and Richard lunged at me, fists raised. Security intercepted him, and soon sirens wailed. Police cuffed Richard, paramedics patched my cut, and guests dispersed, phones still recording. For days later, Mom called, her voice small. Abby, please drop the charges. Richard could lose everything. No, I said and hung up. Then the smear campaign hit. Mom's Facebook post painted me as a vindictive tyrant. Sophie called me a jealous psycho. It spread like wildfire. Lena grinned. We've got VY Deo. Tony's old security system had caught it all. Richard's tantrum, Mom's venom, Evelyn's pasta meltdown. I posted it with a caption, the truth. It went viral. Guests shared their clips and Pasta Granny became a meme. Richard got demoted, fined and shamed. Sophie's wedding venue bailed. Mom's posts vanished, but the damage was done. Business boomed, people loved the drama, but I kept the VY Deo up. Not for revenge, just proof. I built a life from nothing. They couldn't take that away. Sometimes I wonder if they'll ever reach out again, but I don't wait for it. I've learned some endings don't need closure, just distance.